I begin with a triptych, 3 brief stories about a necklace. Number 1. It was sometime during last school year, in a learning session in our chapel with our grade 10 through 12 madrichim, who work as assistants in our classrooms in our religious school. And the topic came up of wearing a Magen David. I asked the teenagers whether the events of recent months had made them more or less likely to wear a Magen David in public. Now, some of the madrichim shared that they had recently started wearing the necklaces that had been stuffed in drawers shortly after their B'nai Mitzvah. They said they were proud of their Judaism to put it on display for the world to see. Another group shared that they weren't interested in wearing one, or maybe felt a bit uncomfortable, and didn't want to always have to represent. But the most interesting group were the students who reported that they wanted to wear one, but their parents or grandparents had told them not to. It's not safe. Story 2. Fast forward a few months later, my teenage daughter and I were at a local cafe for lunch. I was waiting to pay for our food, and I sent her to find a table for us. And to my delight, she had struck up a conversation with 2 women who were sitting next to her speaking Hebrew. After the women finished their meal and left, she turned to me and said, "Mom, they saw my Magen David and told me to tuck it in my shirt, that it's not safe to wear." I assured her it is safe. It is safe to wear in Vancouver. Final story. My daughter, same daughter, I only have one, I have a son too. She was supposed to spend time in the summer in Israel with her summer camp. But the trip, like so many summer trips to Israel, was canceled because of the war with Iran. And so they pivoted and they sent the teens to Europe instead. And as she was packing for the trip, I sat her down and I said, "I am very sorry, but you cannot wear your Magen David in Europe. It's not safe." We are all walking around holding a lot of fear. Fear for the world, fear for our family in Israel, fear for Jews everywhere, for our children and grandchildren, fear for ourselves in Canada, where we never expected to feel such a thing. The reality of Jewish life in Canada today, and in most places in the world, is one in which Jewish security is a real and important concern. We all just came through the doors of this building through many hired and volunteer security personnel welcoming us inside and keeping us safe. Knowing that this kind of security is necessary, it leaves us with many emotions. For me, sometimes I feel anger. I'm angry that we have to spend so much money in our annual budget on security costs. Sometimes I feel annoyed. Why do I have to get there 20 minutes earlier than I would have? I could have stayed longer at home having dinner with my family just to get into a community event. When I can, I try to focus on a feeling of gratitude, in particular for our Bitachon community volunteers and our Temple Sholom volunteers who give up their personal time to make certain that we can be safe in our gatherings. And yes, sometimes I do experience fear, the what if, that can cause me to act with suspicion and trepidation. I don't like that feeling. Now, sometimes we are told explicitly or implicitly that our fear is overblown, irrational, or unfounded, that it's all in our heads. This phenomenon you might know is called gaslighting. That is a psychological manipulation in which someone tries to convince you that your reality is untrue. No, the fear is real. It can't be erased by someone else's insistence that we should just calm down. So I don't come here today to deny fear, but I think it is important to address our fear with some spiritual framing. This Yom Kippur, I think it's important to ask ourselves this question: how can we live with fear honestly without letting it take over our lives? Now, fear is a fundamental part of being human. Many of you in this sanctuary have stood up to and faced down your fears, from hospital beds and gravesides, in front of your children, your spouse, your boss. Every person has confronted a fear and triumphed over it. And yet, I have never in my life met a truly fearless person. Fear follows us through the story of humanity. In our Torah, Eve feared the serpent, Cain feared his brother, Noah feared God. The story of our people, really the story of each human being, is the story of confronting fear again and again. One of the best-known Jewish teachings about fear comes from the 18th century Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. Many of you have sung his words at camp or in Hebrew school, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od, v'ha'ikar lo lefached klal. The whole world is a very narrow bridge, and the main thing is not to be afraid at all. I've always loved this song, the melody, it's so catchy, but the words, honestly, they always kind of puzzled me. Really? Don't be afraid at all? Is that realistic? Is it even healthy? Well, it turns out that's actually not what Rabbi Nachman said. In his original wording, the phrase was not lo lefached klal, it was shelo yitpached klal. It means do not make yourself afraid. The verb is reflexive. It means don't cause yourself fear. Rabbi Nachman was not denying fear. He was teaching us not to spin ourselves into fear, not to live in a fear-fueled frenzy of our own making. The Talmud, too, recognizing this dual nature of fear. In one story, a student was walking with Rabbi Yishmael ben Rabbi Yossi. And Rabbi Yishmael saw that the student was afraid and said, "You must be a sinner, for the Torah teaches the transgressors in Zion are afraid." Not so nice. So the student countered with a verse of his own. He said, "Doesn't it also say in Proverbs, happy is the person who fears always?" And Rabbi Yishmael said, "That verse is about Torah matters. You are just afraid of your surroundings." So which one is it? Is fear sinful or praiseworthy? The rabbis suggest that the answer is both. They always say both. Fear can paralyze or fear can awaken. It can keep us from living fully, or it can open our eyes to the presence of God. In another story in the Talmud, we learn about Rabbi Samuel, who traveled to Rome, the epicenter of worldly power. There, in the marketplace, he happened to find the queen's precious bracelet. A royal crier proclaimed, "Whoever returns the queen's bracelet within 30 days will be rewarded. But after 30 days, if it is found in your possession, you will be executed." Rabbi Samuel, what did he do? He waited until 30 days had passed. And then on the 31st day, he returned the bracelet. The queen asked, "Why didn't you bring it earlier? Weren't you afraid?" He replied, "Yes, I was in the kingdom. Yes, I heard the proclamation. But I wanted you to know, I did not return the bracelet because I feared you. I returned it because I feared God." The queen responded, "Blessed be the God of the Jews." In Hebrew, we have two primary words for fear, pachad and yirah. Pachad is the sudden, visceral fear of danger, the pounding heart, the sweaty palms, the adrenaline rush. It's reactive, the kind of fear that grips us when we imagine worst-case scenarios or when a threat looms near. Pachad, it shrinks our world. Yirah, by contrast, is not about shrinking but expanding. It's awe, reverence, trembling before something greater than ourselves. When we stand before the ocean or gaze at the stars, hold a newborn child, we feel yirah. It is a fear that deepens, not diminishes, our sense of belonging in the world. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote that awe is the root of faith. Yirah opens us to wonder, to a sense of humility, to a deeper sense of connection with the Holy One. So I believe that the spiritual challenge of our time is not to erase fear, but to move from pachad to yirah, from panic to presence. One of the most important things that we can do for our spiritual and emotional well-being right now is to find ways to make sure that fear does not rule us. So yes, we make certain that we have security in our Jewish buildings and events, but then we commit to showing up so that those events and classes and services like this one are experienced in the fullness in which they were intended. The Hasidic Rabbi Yisrael Taub of Mozditz warned, "When righteous people fear the wicked, they give the wicked power over them. Fear hands them the drumbeat by which we march." We know this to be true. When we live in constant pachad, we start to organize our lives around what terrifies us. Our choices shrink, our courage wanes, our joy diminishes. And yet fear of the wicked is not the only possibility. Yirah, awe, reverence, a trembling awareness of God's presence can expand us rather than diminish us. So how do we do this? How do we keep fear from taking over? Judaism offers many different answers. I'd like to share three. First is to resist giving fear power. As the Mozditzer Rebbe taught, when we let our enemies' threats dictate our lives, we hand them victory. Choosing joy, choosing ritual, choosing Jewish life in public, these are acts of courage. Every time we light Shabbat candles, every time we sing Hebrew songs, every time we wear a Magen David or walk down the street with a kippah, we are saying fear will not rule us. The second is to seek solidarity. Fear isolates, but Jewish tradition insists that we are part of a people. We do not face our fears alone. That is why we gather here on Yom Kippur to confess, to pray, to cry, and hope together. Our togetherness transforms fear into strength. And third is that transformation of pachad to yirah, from fear to awe. When we feel panic rising, we can pause to remember, I am small, but I am part of something vast. Fear collapses the world inward. Awe opens it outward. These 10 days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur are called the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe. It's the same root, Noraim, from Yir'ah. These are not the days of panic, not the days of pachad. These are the days of awe, days that invite us into trembling reverence. This evening, as we will come to our final service of Ne'ilah, the gates will begin to close. The work we will have strived toward is not to erase fear. The work is to transform the pachad and emerge with yir'ah, awe-filled courage, reverence for life. There's a beautiful piyut, a liturgical poem traditionally recited before Havdalah at the end of Shabbat. Its chorus repeats over and over 4 words from the prophet Jeremiah. Al tira avdi Yaakov. Do not fear my servant Jacob. The prophet promises Jacob again shall have calm and quiet, with none to trouble him. Like so many Shabbat songs, this one gives strength as the holy day wanes, a reminder that even in exile, God calls us not to fear. It is not a call to deny reality. It is a call to courage, to resilience, to trust that fear need not rule us. So yes, we feel fear. We carry it with us in our homes, our schools, our Jewish spaces, our hearts. Pachad is real, but Yom Kippur calls us to cultivate yir'ah, to let our awe open us instead of shrinking us into panic. The world is indeed a narrow bridge. The main thing is not to make ourselves afraid, not to hand power to those who wish us harm, not to let pachad dictate our lives. Instead, we can walk across that bridge with yir'ah, with courage in one another, with the strength of our tradition and the promise of our people. And so on this holy day, we lean on Jeremiah's words, sung through the generations. Al tira avdi Yaakov. Do not fear my servant Jacob. Gemar Chatima Tova.